Well, let's talk about this because here comes a can of worms. So, Last of Us Part 2, it got delayed to just indefinite, not getting released digital early, even though Neil Druckmann did do an interview saying all that stuff's still being discussed. But they've said it's not a gaming issue or anything like that development. It's just they want the right amount to, kind of, I think the pomp and circumstance to
Mm-hmm.
get it out there, release everything like that. So this is where one we didn't hear anything of Ghost of Tsushima, and then we also, in my opinion, we were talking about this in our group chat. PS5 is tentative, and both consoles are tentative for the fall. I think that is a crapshoot. Now I would throw that out the window. I just think this is gonna have such a huge domino effect because we talked about this, and I'll throw you Dylan first.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that? One, I'll just say that I'm very bummed. Again, all this is just first world problems, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'm just happy that friends and family are happy and healthy. But I kept saying to you guys because I knew it was going to get delayed. I'm like, I just want just this one more game, and then everything else can go delay because I've been very looking forward to. Plus, it's like just a great story game. I've been looking to sink my teeth into. So
Yeah.
I'm bummed out that way. But yeah, what are your thoughts about this? And what are your thoughts about it affecting PS5? Kind of, I think inevitably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sucks, but yeah, this one isn't too surprising. Like, obviously they said the game is like pretty much done. This is strictly because of, this will limit their physical sales. This will limit the impact of, like, some people aren't going to be able to buy it, and they would have to kind of skip it, on launch, which is never what you want.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think even like the subject matter of the game, right, is another thing. Like, wait until people are a little bit happier, possibly, and then people will like receive the game better. I don't know if that had something to do with their choice, but yeah, I think along with Last of Us, they also delayed Iron Man VR, and that's the one that I actually find a little bit more treacherous because Last of Us, they delay it. Whenever that game comes out, it's gonna sell like crazy. It possibly might be the greatest selling PS4 game. Like, it might, it'll take a few months or something,
Mm-hmm.
maybe years, but I think it could get to that point. But Iron Man VR is a sketchy one because one, like, this is kind of the biggest game ever for PlayStation VR. Like, obviously it's not out yet, but that's kind of the vibe it was giving off, that like this is going to be the big one, that like this is going to
Mm-hmm.
be the peripheral seller. People are going to play this, see it at a convention or at the Best Buy, whatever it is, and then they're going to want to buy it. And obviously that impact's going to be gone. From one, like, people aren't going to be able to get their hands on it as easily, but two, let's say this game gets delayed from March all the way to around the fall. Let's say in this hypothetical world that the PS4 or PS5 rather still comes out that time. There's no way you're selling PlayStation VR headset around the time PS5 comes out. Obviously, some people
No.
will, but realistically, most people are like, "Okay, I'm saving for this new console. This new console's really expensive." There's some people that need to get the Xbox and the PS5, so they're not going to have the expendable money to also buy VR, especially if there's maybe rumblings that PSVR 2 is a thing at some point. So I think Iron Man VR is the one that really, really is going to pay for this delay, unfortunately, whereas I think Last of Us really doesn't care. I think kind of finally what you touched on there of, is PS5 going to get delayed? I think it's pretty likely at this point, and I think it's very different for Xbox and PlayStation because, like, look at so far like what PlayStation's marketing plan has been, right? Like, last year around this time, they started doing some of those Wired articles where they said, here's some information, we're going to reduce load times, just like little tiny information. And then obviously we got the whole hardware presentation just this last in March at some point. So like, they haven't really ramped up their marketing yet. So I think it's
No.
totally fine if they push back their plans and start pumping the marketing plans out later. But Xbox is in a little bit more of a tricky position because obviously there's so much that goes into this marketing budget of pushing to a big console, and they've been doing a great job, but they started that really in earnest, like at the Game Awards, right, where they said this is what the console looks like, and then frequently, feels like every single month, there's like, here's some more amazing news. So it's really hard for them to push at this point because they've already put so much money into like this marketing plan, and the longer that spreads out, the bigger the marketing budget becomes, the scarier it becomes for them. So,
Well, and you also have Phil, who's like,
mm-hmm,
he did an interview 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago saying, like, yeah, our console's not going to get delayed. Like, he sounded really confident about it. It's just like, in the time like this, like maybe it won't, but I would feel like you don't want to be so certain. Like just play it like we hope that we stay on track, but you never know. But he came
Yeah.
off like really kind of to me, just kind of brushing it to the side. And even then, let's say you could get the console out in November. Again, when we talk about sales, it might not be just even smart to put it out for financials, not even just other consoles, just in general. People might not be wanting to drop, especially we didn't talk about this. I should throw this in, but there's rumors going around the PS4 price, right? And what was it? It was 400 American, so
Mm-hmm.
that'd be like around 600 for us. So kind of same for the
Yeah.
PS4. And they've been very cagey. Even they did an interview with IGN this week, and again, he's pretty cagey with it. And he keeps talking about like it's going to be a solid price, but we're making the most powerful console ever. So again, if they are more expensive, and that's a lot of money. If it's like a close to $500 console with people coming
Yeah.
off, like I said, lots of people unemployed. I just feel it's kind of asinine to be like, oh yeah, we're not going to be delaying it. Just like don't close the door. Just leave it. So I feel, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe they just like you said, maybe they feel they just have to with all this marketing, but. I don't know. Like right now, I just feel like it's not going to be. Who knows? Maybe that's what people need in the fall. But I think the PS5 for sure is a delay. I know we've said spring, but I don't even bat an eyelash at possibly even next time fall, like 2021 fall, just to get that. Because they, like you said, they've not done much ramp up. So they might want to
Mm-hmm.
wait to get the ramp up. Who knows when Last of Us comes out? If Last of Us doesn't come out till springtime of next year, then same thing. We're not going to be getting that new console. Taylor, he'll probably talk about this, but he threw like in our group chat, like his PS5 a possibility. Anything's a possibility because you never know. People make game mistakes all the time, but I don't think there's a chance. There's a strong chance of Last of Us not going to PS4. So
Yeah.
I think that it's a huge domino effect. And even with Ghosts, they haven't said anything. I know it's probably because some people have said that they are, like, oh, they're trying to wait to see if it's going to be closer to that. But just with all the reports right now of how long this thing could last till things are getting normal, I just feel that I don't know, I'm back to my tinfoil hat of they're not too concerned with Ghosts, in my opinion. I don't think they think it's going to be a big seller. I think that game to me, it's going to be maybe a bit better than Days Gone, but that's kind of my theory right now. So that's my theory of why
Yeah.
nothing with Ghosts. I know it is because, it's later on, but I also think it's because their Last of Us is their main concern. That and PS5, and I think there's a possibility where PS5 is delayed like a whole year, and I think Xbox should slow down. I know they spend money with marketing, but
Well,
don't rush it because if they rush it, that could hurt them.
yeah, I don't know. I think I see it a bit differently. Like at least if rumors are to be to believe that Xbox has like a less expensive SKU or something like that, or maybe not less expensive, but let's say a different version of the Xbox Series X. I think that's where they have maybe some wiggle room, right? Like let's say Xbox
Mm-hmm.
just goes ahead, even if production's limited. There's limited Xboxes. It's an annoying thing because like people are scalping them, and it's just like annoying. Whatever, their console's still out there. They're still the talk of the town for just this whole year, right? Like this whole year. Obviously, The Last of Us will probably still come out, maybe, but maybe it won't. Who knows? But Xbox is the talk of the town. Like this was their year, and then whenever PlayStation decides to drop PlayStation 5, then they can say, well, our cheaper SKU is coming out the same day, and just kind of undercut them. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe that's in the cards. I just think there's so much, that they've already put into this plan that they have in place. And I did listen to that IGN interview. I think it's worth checking out for gaming fans. Like, it was a pretty good interview, and it's like an hour long or something. After you're done listening to this and done listening to our cocktail review, go check that out. But I think Phil, I don't know. I thought everything he said was pretty good, honestly. Like he was saying like, yeah, we're pretty confident. We're still going to go ahead. We don't really have a plan B, but we're still aiming for that holiday. And I think that, I don't know, who knows what the long term is. No one can say, but November is still really far away. So maybe things are better then. And even then, I still think if they can hit that November slot with the console and Halo Infinite on launch, I think that will still sell really, really well. Even if the console is limited and like it can't do that amazing with sales because of production limitations, if they still have Halo Infinite out on that November date, then that's still huge. Huge way to cap off the year for them and just set them up for like a successful 2021 as well. And then, like I said, with possibly rolling out another SKU or something. So I don't know. I think Xbox is in a pretty good spot, but I really feel like PlayStation at this point maybe should just say, hey, we're pushing. We're gonna have to, and I don't know, unless they have some big secrets like, hey, here's Horizon and it's coming out in November, because that would be wild if they had something like a Horizon or a Spider-Man 2 ready to go. That would change like the whole landscape of everything, and they could still launch and be successful. But I almost feel like at this point, just give it to Xbox for this year and just try again later, like whether it's a March or just a fall drop, who knows, but something like that.
Yeah, I'll throw it to you and say I just think it's hard for me to get on the bandwagon because I've heard lots of people talk about like, oh, if Halo's dropping with it could be a real seller with it. To me, I just gotta wait to see that because we've seen so little of that. And to me, if it's just same old Halo, I just don't. I think it'll sell to its core fan base, but I think if it's November, especially if this thing, like we said, it's unforeseen, but let's say life is getting back to normal just in September, that's people who have been unemployed and just starting to work for 2 months before that console, and they're going to drop like so let's say the Xbox is American $600, even let's say lower, it's 500, and then you got, let's say maybe you need another controller. I'll take that out because maybe they're saying it's going to work with it, right? So just that and the game. I guess you got Games Pass, but the same thing we're talking about Last of Us, there's still enough people that aren't affiliated with online that they're still going to buy the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it's funny. In the next few years, I feel like digital now is going to move even forward because they don't, people like, not just the companies, people in general aren't going to want this to happen again. Like, hey, remember that time we were all locked inside and we couldn't get that game? That's the reason they want to get into a situation where Last of Us could sell to a bunch of people. So to me, I got to see more of Halo Infinite because I can't get on that narrative yet because no Halo or Gears, like none of their exclusives has pushed people to buy consoles other than their main people. And I just find it hard that in September, if it's 2 months after something like that, and it's just like people are going to be hurting, and to drop almost $700 on something new for a game that might just be another Halo, that's where I got to see if it's really doing like a God of War, like reinventing the wheel. Because I just don't believe it's that. I don't know why. I just don't think it is.
I think. I mean, one, Xbox knows that this game needs to hit. They know that it has to be not just another Halo. It can't be Halo 5, which I frequently forget exists. Like, they know that. They've, been pumping out these Master Chief Collection, like, whatever's coming out on Steam and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. They're building that fan base back up, and I think they know it needs to hit, and they're prepared for that. I will say, in terms of pricing, like, right now there is a deal where you can pay, I think it's like $30-$50 a month, and they'll send you an Xbox One, and you're paying like a monthly fee. It's kind of bundled in with your Game Pass, and it's like a 2-year plan, like a phone, right? And you're paying it off slowly. And they did say at some point in one of their Xbox Inside Xbox that you can do this plan, and then at some point you can, increase that amount, whatever it is, and that will be incorporated with the Series X. So essentially, you're paying like you would with your phone, a monthly plan for your Xbox Series X, and maybe that's the key to success here is maybe they're not selling all these consoles for $600 on launch, but they have, millions of people who are on this monthly plan, which is already great because it's incorporated into Game Pass, and then you're getting it into people's homes. People are playing Halo. They're talking about Halo. Halo's great, and then everyone's happy. So I think maybe they are setting themselves up well, or like at least within these circumstances, perhaps they have some ways to navigate and adapt and still be successful this holiday season. So that's what do you got, Taylor? What are your thoughts on all this?
For me personally, I think that Xbox is in a situation where they're advertising for themselves. They're sticking to their marketing kind of game, and I think that's totally fine and fair. I do believe that at this point, yes, if a console were to release, and people don't have the money or anything like that, it's going to be difficult for them. But at the same time, if a console releases in a couple months or a few months, that it's first come first serve. If you're on that market and you're available, you're there. If someone wants to get little Jimmy the next Call of Duty and wants to get the next gaming console, they're gonna see like, oh, they're marketing the new PlayStation, but I could just buy an Xbox that has the game ready to go right now. It's just the fact that Xbox has their foot in the door, I think, is huge. I think that's very beneficial for them because, the world is on hold right now, but, shipping and delivery and everything like that is not. The world is still making shipments and deliveries all over the planet. People are still buying things. We're not working as much right now, but there are contingencies in play where, we can definitely kind of like compensate for that, and it's, I think, them putting Xboxes out for even like a pay-as-you-go kind of plan or different, methods. Microsoft will work with people so that people can have access to their consoles. I to say and see it just being a flat-out fee of $5.99 or $6.99. Maybe it could be that way, but I think there'll be alternatives set up. And for me, for the most part, I'm the kind of guy where I'll trade in my Xbox One S towards the next gen console. I'll go to EB Games or something like that to do it, and I'll shave off like $150 off of a new console. So I think that there's different ways to do it for everyone, and I think that Xbox already having marketed themselves and being out there, it's okay. I think that it's going to pay off for them, and I think that all of this kind of does is I really wish that Sony and PlayStation had put their foot out the door sooner than later, and I feel like they wish that too, because I don't think you're going to see a lot of information coming off of the PS5 really anytime soon. I think they're going to wait and hold all that information inwards until they get to a point where COVID-19's calmed down and they can start putting money into marketing themselves effectively everywhere. But by then, I feel like it may be too late, because Xbox already has a lot of traction and it's rising right now. And that being said, again, like with Halo, it definitely needs like a good change, because Halo 5 was not successful by any means. It definitely sold a lot of copies, but there were a lot of people that were upset with so many changes they made to the game. But this time we have a brand new game engine. We have a brand new story. It looks like it's going right back to the roots. It's continuing the story, which is good, but even that cinematic trailer we got just felt like such a core original Halo moment, which is what I really want. And I feel like at this point, if Call of Duty Modern Warfare can just turn the tide and come back with like such a crazy delivery like they have with this game in terms of popularity and everything, then I feel like a game like Halo has every bit of opportunity and possibility of doing just the same.
See, it's interesting that you brought up the little Jimmy argument, though, because that's where I think I would counter and say you have the possibility of that backfiring of, yeah, okay, there could be a phone service thing like that, but let's say there's not. You have that thing of backfiring, I'm sorry, parents, if they're not working, if they're getting back to regular life, a new gaming console is going to be very, very low on people's lists. So, yeah. But that's what you're yeah, that's what you're talking about. That's what Dylan referred to too, where you're saying, "Oh, Sony should have got their foot out the door." I don't think they should have if they're not releasing it, because that's the thing. We're saying that you're saying like, "Oh, why did they go for PlayStation? Because the new one, there's only one established." Let's say a year from now, let's say Xbox does release in November, you have the chance of people not having money to spend it. And then when there is actual hype for PlayStation, when people have money, why would I get the old Xbox when I can get this new PlayStation that everyone's talking about? It's new. It has a new game. Like Dylan said, well, they have a Ghost Drop if there's more time. Spider-Man's here. That's the thing where you're right. It could work if this is a new thing. There's nothing competing with it, but it could also work against them. Be like, we don't have the money right now. Let's save up. And then when they're ready to have the money, there's a cheaper console that's newer that has the hype. Because if Xbox comes out in November, all its hype, it won't be gone, but the hype is that launch, right? So the hype and the thing with Xbox is what would sustain its great games. They don't have a track record of this generation doing that. So to me, they drop Halo, let's say that's great, and then 6 months later, that hype will be gone, and I don't know if they'll have another game. If they don't have another game to reach that Halo-like height or anything, whether it's a new IP, that's where they could get screwed, where people have money now, the PS4 or the PS5 is launching. They got a great game. They got the hype. So that's where they got to be concerned, because I think the hardcores will, of course, do it. But I think, and I'd say the same thing for Sony. I think that's why they will move, because I think they're looking at it from that point of view. And I honestly think if it continues, I do think Xbox will move. I think it's just a lot of posturing right now. But posturing, sorry. But I think that could work against them. The whole, this is the only console. Like I said, if you don't have. Go ahead. Oh, I just said if you don't got the money, it's just it's even, and like Dylan said, there is that phone option, could be, but even then, right? Like people, it's like the biggest unemployment rate in history for some countries. So it's like even then, if it's $40 a month, that could be $40 towards an actual phone bill, schooling, stuff like that. Like we talk about this because it's our stuff, but it's when we're talking about like movies being delayed, and that's like $20, and analysts are already saying like, yeah, movies aren't going to be hitting $1 billion for at least 2 to 3 years. That's going to see a movie that's $15. So even doing $40 gaming subscription, a parent might look at it and be like, sorry, we can't do that right now. Like, we got to pay bills legitimately. We got to pay rent. So that's where I think it could really hurt them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but, and I guess it definitely makes sense. I guess I'm looking at it too, like, if Xbox is out first and these games have already rolled out first, like if let's say the next Doom is out and it's ready to go on the next gen console, PlayStation hasn't released yet, but people have that money and want to get in on this now, they're gonna go for what's available now, either PC or that next gen console. It's those third party games that might give Xbox that edge, which could, again, what you said, it definitely things could backfire. People could be like, oh, by the time Xbox is out, the hype's over with, and I got money now, here's a new console, and it's getting these exclusives, but then it's just the exclusives that would be raking the people in. And it's hard to say too, because whether or not, like, if Xbox comes out, it's more expensive than what the PS5 is going to be, or it's cheaper, who knows at this point. But if it's already been out for a while, they could do sales, they could drop the price, they could price match with whatever PlayStation's price is going to be set at release, which then puts PlayStation at a risk, because PlayStation is forced to stick to that opening price tag, where Xbox has been out for a while. They can be flexible with it. If they need to drop that price, they can take into account, and they can, base off of like first earnings in their first quarter and kind of go from there and see how things are going to progress financially for them. So they get, I just feel like whoever releases first at this point, yeah, it's tricky with COVID, but it's just going to be a bit of a playing field, to play with numbers and see how things are going to progress and how they're going to do. Like, I feel like either way, like, I feel like Xbox is still in that good spot, but I do hate that Sony didn't market sooner than later, because it's just I feel like it's just a missed opportunity for them. And yeah, like, sure enough, the playing
How's it a missed
field-
opportunity, though, if it doesn't come out in November? Like Dylan was saying, Xbox, let's say Xbox does push their console. They could lose that hype. They could lose that marketing. That same thing where Sony, let's say they aren't coming out till spring, they can ramp that up. That's where I think it is a good thing, because if Xbox comes out the same time they do now, they will, I think, start to lose the hype when they've released all their stuff already, and PlayStation can be the new shiny thing, right? So I think it's only a bad thing if it's this scenario. But one, we don't know for sure Xbox comes out in fall, and two, Sony hasn't even started. So if Sony is releasing in fall, I'll agree with you, but I don't think they are. So they'll have all of 2021 to like the first half to really build
they
up.
They will. I guess the thing is, like, there's so many people that, there's a lot of diehards that'll wait, and there's a lot of people that are impatient in society, And yes, money is a huge factor in that, but I feel like, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, I could wait another, like, 6 months for that PlayStation 5, or I can just hop on this new game and start enjoying what I want to do now on the Xbox. And yeah, it'll be this shiny new thing, but it's going to be that console that has somewhat, better in some areas and then less in some areas compared to the Xbox One. People are going to have the Xbox One and be like, well, I'm not going to buy another console that I'm already, rocking the Xbox with. It's just another console that's providing the same almost like quality and tier in some aspects as the Xbox, and better in other aspects compared to the Xbox. And it's just, why get that same console that just has different games and exclusives?
Games.
It is for the games, but then
like last gen.
That's people that are going to be waiting for an extra 6 months, and the 6 months, I don't know, I'm just throwing 6 months out as just an example, but it's a long period of time that could be enough to sway people over to an Xbox, in the sense where, okay, I have third-party games that I want to be playing on next gen now, and I need to hop on this right now. And again, you're right, there are those, like, parents of the little Jimmies that can't afford those kinds of things, but then who knows, maybe anything could happen. I mean, it's hard to say. If they feel like that eventually they come into money, or who knows, like, it's just if little Jimmy's throwing a tantrum and wants that new console, you never know.
Well, I think that's an interesting argument, is like the people who are going to be the crossover, the people that are going to buy both an Xbox Series X and a PS5, because that's already, like, if you're not in the industry, like, that's already kind of limited. Like, most people are going to just pick one, right? And that's where it actually becomes interesting, of like, me as a big PS4 fan, and obviously I'm really invested in like my Horizon sequel and not PlayStation, Spider-Man sequel. So I'm in the boat where, like, yes, I love everything about the Series X and I really want one, but let's say that November rolls around, the Xbox is out, PlayStation said, hey, we're pushing back, and there's no info. I can't just in good faith just go to the store and buy an Xbox. I gotta wait until I see what PlayStation's actually brewing. Like, I have to wait and see. So it might not be a thing of just pick up the Xbox and wait. and see what I want to do with PlayStation. It's going to be I'm going to wait on both, and maybe further down the line I'll decide, okay, now maybe I'm not so stoked about Spider-Man 2. Maybe they're not doing Horizon, they're doing Killzone. I don't care. I'm going to go get my Xbox now. But I think that'll be interesting of like just what is PlayStation's plan this year other than their Ghosts plan and their Last of Us plan. Like what do they have cooking? Because that's where it becomes interesting if people like I don't know. Already I feel like the number is pretty low of people who are going to buy both the next gen consoles, like at launch at least, or within that launch window. So I think that's interesting. But I want to touch on something that Travis said a while ago. Is that like yes, the Halo is great on launch, but I think that is really interesting that Xbox is going to need another at least massive game that's theirs, like in that coming months or around the PlayStation launch. And right now, I can't tell you what that's going to be. Like, obviously, they've acquired a bunch of studios. Hellblade is cool, but that is more niche. That's not going to be the game that blows everyone's socks off, unless it totally changes and is some different thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it'll be a more kind of restrained product, very sequelized to the first. So what is that going to be, right? Like, that's huge. You need another massive exclusive that's going to be the second wave, or when they do have that second SKU that comes out, like what's going to launch with that, or what's going to be near the PlayStation launch that they can kind of pull people to their side. And yeah, I mean, obviously they have all these studios that are probably working on some pretty cool stuff in secret, and who knows, maybe there's a Fable game on the loose, who knows. But I don't know, I really am curious what that's going to be, because that second game is almost like at this point is going to be more important than Halo, assuming PlayStation 5 does get pushed out of that November holiday slot of this year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting times. And hey, at the end of the day, like the COVID stuff changed everything, but Switch released on it like no time, and they're just off on the side and they're making money, right?
Mhm.
So as long as you're making a good console with good games, it can sell.
Yep.
So
It's true.